Hello and welcome. My name's Rose Smith from AbsoluteSoulSecrets.com. I'm here to talk about my personal experience with coronavirus or Covid-19. I'm fairly certain that I have it, but I don't know for sure because I haven't been able to secure a test yet. However, my doctor is agitating for me to get a test. Let me tell you a bit about how I've found myself in this situation. It actually goes back some months. I actually feel really nervous talking about the whole of this online to the whole world, but I feel like you need to be warned. And I did mention some elements of this yesterday on a Facebook stream. I'm going to tell you the whole story now. So, beginning of December, a family member came up and brought his family up. Fine, that's fine. They were all sick. And, you know, flus and viruses go around all the time. Okay, so he does associate with Chinese people and he does go to Asia a fair bit. And I don't know the dates of the last time he went to Asia. But anyway, so that was okay. He was here a few days. He was actually here a week, but after a few days, he was having trouble breathing. We had to take him to hospital here on the Gold Coast, because he was having this difficulty. They fixed him up. The family went home. A few days later, my husband was having trouble breathing one night as well. I was about to call the ambulance, but then he settled down and he was okay. A few days after that, one night I woke up. I was having trouble breathing, but I calmed myself down and then I was fine. I had very mild symptoms the beginning of December, and I thought this feels really weird. I was having a few sort of flashes of like scary faces and entities and things like that, which I'm a psychic, so I'm not, frightened by those things. And so I sent them packing. I only had the symptoms for about a week, and there was no talk in the media about coronavirus at that stage. I just sort of forgot about it. Then what happened was my mother-in-law got really sick after this family member had visited her in the nursing home. She got so sick that she had to go to hospital. She had double pneumonia. The staff the doctor said to my husband, it could go either way. What do you want us to do? Do you want us to let her go? And my husband said no, because she's a fighter and she doesn't want to go, so I want you to do everything you can to keep her alive, because that's what she wants. Even though she was 89 years old, physically, she was quite strong. She was walking around. She was one of the few people in the nursing home to be walking around, in fact. And she would walk hundreds of metres every day, maybe a kilometre a day or something like that in the actual nursing home. So she pulled through and we thought, great, Then, sadly, a couple of weeks later, we got a phone call at 6:10 in the morning. Her carer in the old age home was calling, and he had just found her dead on the floor. She had passed away. Within minutes, he'd just taken the breakfast tray in. She had cereal and yogurt like she always does. He went back to get the tray, and there she was. He hadn't even followed the protocol he was supposed to, because he rang my husband first, because my husband goes there regularly, all the time, every week, several times a week, so they know him. So the carer rang here first before following the protocol. We were so shocked because she was so strong, and so we were really shocked. And even though I am psychic, it was still a shock. I don't think being psychic lets you off being human. You still get all of the feelings and emotions around whatever happens. And anyway, so the staff, they've seen a lot of deaths there, in all nursing homes, of course they have. And they told us that they thought she had a heart attack, and the doctor confirmed she had, a heart attack. But they didn't do an autopsy or anything like that because there was no reason. So I was just like, not sitting well with me, but that's the best that's going. Anyway, so we buried her, and then about more than a month ago, just after she died, I started to have these flashes, and it was about World War II. And it just kept going up. I kept seeing the German soldiers and the fighting and shooting and all of this. And I'm like, Sometimes if I get a virus, which I don't get them very often, I rarely get respiratory illness. But when I do, one of the dreams I have is of German soldiers from the war, because I'm fighting germs. So that's the language my subconscious uses to tell me I've got a virus before I have symptoms. So I thought, this is odd. I've got the germ nightmares going, but I haven't got any symptoms. So maybe it's to do with my mother-in-law, because she was in the Second World War, and she used to go to the black market and sell butter on the black market, and the Germans used to, try and stop the black markets, and they actually shot at her. She was 13 when she was doing this. So I was thinking it was to do with her and her passing, and this is one of the stages I'm going through as a result of her passing. And I just thought, but that's all I could put it down to. Anyway, excuse me, I'm going to cough. Not as bad as I was yesterday, actually. Anyway, so I'm on day 11 of coronavirus symptoms now. And I don't want to go into sort of all of the advice part or what the symptoms are, other than to say I had a fever for 5 days. I've got a cough. It's sort of like a faux fever, though. This doesn't feel like a fair dinkum fever because, flu. This doesn't feel like a fair dinkum flu because it's not going through the stages that a flu goes through. So normally by day 11, you would think that you'd be coughing up stuff all the time. No, not with coronavirus. There's very little phlegm going on down here. What I'm getting is burning across here, burning and burning down there. And it's like my body's trying to fight it off. My temperature now is normal, but I still feel very hot in the face, and I do feel sick, and I've got constant headaches. Anyway, so last weekend, Saturday, the government had announced that they had hotlines, phone lines, and to call the phone line if you had any fever-like symptoms. Okay, so last Saturday I did that, and I actually did 2 videos about this. I had to take one down because one of the spiritual one had some information in it that's questionable about whether the fever likes hot and wet or hot and dry. Okay, whether the fever dislikes hot and wet or hot and dry. It definitely dislikes hot weather, but the dry or the wet part I have to do more research on now because more has come to light. But anyway, I rang the hotline, I told them what happened to me, and they said, no, you don't meet the criteria. Okay, all right. So I thought, okay, forget about it, I don't meet their criteria. Next day, Sunday, our health minister, Greg Hunt, comes out and says, if you have flu-like symptoms, please contact the hotline and tell them because you need to get tested. That's what he said, you need to get tested. Okay, well I just did that and that doesn't work, so I'll do it again. So Sunday night I ring up, I said, look, I've seen in the Sydney Morning Herald, I've seen in the Telegraph, and I've seen in WA Today, so 3 different media sources, that our health minister says that I need to get tested. And they said, no, you haven't been overseas and you haven't been in direct contact with a confirmed coronavirus sufferer. I'm completely confused. I just heard him, and I'm just now looking at the article. I can see I can read. I'm really lucky I can read what he said. I said, so what do I do? And they said, well, go to your doctor. Okay. All right. So here we go. We get into the health system here in Australia. And although it is better than some health systems, much better than the American system, it still is shambolic in regard to coronavirus testing. And it's actually not early days. They've known about this for a long time, but that's another story. And so, Monday, I ring up. I've got 2 doctors for 2 different things. I ring up one doctor and I said, look, I've got this. The health department tells me to contact you. And the first thing they say is, don't come in. I'm like, they just told me to tell you to come in to get tested. And they're saying, no, don't come in. You need to contact the Gold Coast Hospital. Oh, okay. Do you have the number? They give me the number. I ring the hospital. I tell them, the doctor won't see me. They've told me to come to you. The hospital says, yes, you need to go to the fever clinic on the 5th floor of the Gold Coast Hospital. And I said, okay, so I'll ring them. So because I always like to set it up before I go there. You know, it's a bit of a drive. I want to set it up so it's all smooth. So I ring them. They say, yes, come in. I said, what time? And they said, we're open 9 till 9. So I get there at 8:30 anticipating I can't be the only one. They must have lots of people. So I get there early. I sit down, I wait. I go through several levels of triage, maybe 3, maybe 4. I tell the nurses my story of what's happened with my mother-in-law, what's happened with my brother, what's happened with my family member who came to stay, not my brother, who came to stay for a week. And anyway, the nurses say, wow, this doesn't fit into our criteria, but we really think you should get tested. I said, so do I. Plus, because I've got a procedure on my back on the 26th of this month that I've already paid for in advance because I've got a specialist coming up from Melbourne, which is like thousands of miles away, to do this operation, right? So I've already paid him a deposit. And so I tell them all that, and they say, wow, you got this, you should get tested. So, right, I agree. So I get there at 8:30, I go through all these stages of triage, I have my temperature taken, I have my blood pressure taken. I'm watching them because I've got nothing else to do. They've got a cleaner there following around the staff, cleaning up as they go with a mop and with antiseptic wipes. All of their equipment, the cords, you know, the curly little cords, wiping them all down with antiseptic wipes. The staff, as soon as a nurse touches you, she has to get gowned up and everything, gloves, everything, masks, goggles, and then after touching you, then she takes it all off. Then she puts a whole lot of other new stuff on. Then she cleans down the machines. Then she takes it all off. Then she puts on another lot for the next person. Meanwhile, I'm watching the doctor. He has an assistant there that's actually gowning him up in like a hazmat suit type thing. He's got this thing on his head which wraps around his throat and ties at the back. He's got a set of goggles. He's got a mask. He's got like a gown thing that ties up at the back, and a couple of other bits of apparatus. And every single person he sees, he has to be gowned up, degowned, and there's like wheelie bins there, and all of this stuff is getting thrown in the wheelie bins from one doctor and all of these support staff. And I'm looking at thinking, wow, I'm number 5. It's 11 a.m. I've been here 2.5 hours. And they've got wheelie bins full of stuff that they've used. There's no way that this is going to be contained. And I was just absolutely shocked when I realised they're going to run out of stuff. The amount of PPE or personal protective equipment that they're using, they're going to run out. And so I had this sort of realisation. I was sitting there like this. Then they called me in. The head clinician called me in. She was running the fever clinic. And we're talking. And she said, yes, I agree. You will be tested. I'm like, great, okay. She goes to get the doctor. And then she comes back and she says, no, you won't be tested. you don't meet the criteria. I said, I know I don't meet the criteria strictly, but I've got this. If I have an operation on the 26th of March, I go into that radiology department, I'm going to contaminate them if I've got coronavirus. And they don't seem to think that's important. So she just gives me a piece of paper and says, you haven't been to Iran, Italy, China, Singapore, and one other country, Indonesia, I think. So therefore, don't worry about it. And I'm like, she didn't say don't worry about it, but that's how my mind interpreted it. So then I look her in the eye and I said, you're not accounting for community spread. I said, I am a prime example of community spread, and you're going to send me out out into the public to, do whatever damage I do, which I'm obviously trying to be responsible. I'm not going to do that. I'm in isolation now. But yeah, she got me out of there as quick as possible. I just looked her in the eye and said, because of your protocol, a lot of people are going to die because of this. Her eyes welled up with tears, and I knew I was correct. They are not accounting for community spread. This is spreading like topsy through the community right now. Okay, the figures that we're seeing that are published as confirmed cases have no relation whatsoever to the number of cases. I heard the Ohio Health Department come out 2 days ago. They said, we have 5 confirmed cases, but we have 100,000 cases in the community. That's one state in America with 11.7 million population. So I'm just like, they've got 100,000 cases now. If we extrapolate that out to America, that's some huge number of cases, like one, I think, do your maths, I don't remember, but I think that's like 1.8 million or something cases. Maybe I'm wrong, I can't remember now. Just work it out on a calculator. For every 11.7 million people, you have 100,000 cases. There's 330 million in America, so whatever that works out. For Australia, it works out at about somewhere between 230, 250,000 people are currently with this illness, and they don't even know. Okay, they're all going around the community spreading it right now. Our government is not doing enough. So I'm just absolutely shocked. So it took me a few days to get over that shock, even though I've been working on this. I started with those dreams about the germs. So it's over a month that I've been working on this, and I'm still going through a reaction adjustment. Okay, so I just want to write down for you about reaction adjustments, okay, because this is pretty important, and we're all going to go through this. I'm sorry, my handwriting is shocking. Reaction adjustment. I could have typed it all out, but to be quite honest, I just don't have the energy to do it. So I'm doing this video really, really quickly. First thing, everybody goes through some denial. Okay, this is normal. A reaction adjustment is normal. Help somebody, they will lash out at you. I started posting on Facebook about this last week. I had heaps. I had some people, some friends, come and say I was panicking and overreacting, okay? And it's like, well, I've got these symptoms. I don't think I'm overreacting at all. What I'm saying is it's not the time for panic, it's the time for preparation. There is a difference. Third thing, bargaining. So you might, when you're going through the bargaining stage, you might think, oh, well, I'll do this, I won't go out as much, I'll be careful, if I, do such and such, I should be right. Or in Australia, we would say, she'll be right, mate. Okay, so you go through this, I might make some small changes, but they're not real changes. They're not meaningful changes. 4, fear. I have been in and out of this. I'm getting less fearful now because I've had so much time to adapt. after fear, the next stage is depression. I am in this stage quite often, depression. 6, the final stage is acceptance. I do go into acceptance sometimes, but not all of the time. Okay, so I'm sort of mostly fluctuating between these two. So I'm coming to the end of the reaction adjustment, because this is a major thing. This is the biggest thing that we'll ever see in our lifetimes, most probably. And it really takes some time to get your head around it and to realise how very, very serious this is. So I started, like I said, I started posting about it. People didn't like it. They don't want to be known. They don't want to be shaken up or woken up from their slumber. They rather just stick their heads in the sand. That's okay. The problem with that is, though, while you've got your head in the sand and you go around your normal everyday routine, that you could be spreading the virus. Just because you don't have symptoms doesn't mean you're not contagious, okay? Let me say that again in a different way. You could be contagious and not even know. Okay, so we're spreading it to each other and we don't even know. That's just shocking to me, and it's shocking that our governments haven't told us. This illness, I believe, has been in Australia since November last year or before, because it was early December I got the first symptoms. And that's why I'm trying to get tested so I can prove to the health department that yes, I do have it, and you got a bigger problem than you realise because it's been here for longer than you realise. Or maybe the government does know and they're just put off telling us because they're worried that we're going to panic. Yeah, sure, some people will panic, and we'll panic more because we haven't had time to prepare. It's here now, and they haven't given us a heads up. Wouldn't you think you'd tell your friend, if there was something wrong and you could help them out, you'd tell them? No, governments don't do that. I don't understand it. Anyway, so I rang my other doctor, and the expensive doctor, and and in Australia you can have calls with your doctor, but you can't claim it on the public health system. So because I'm in isolation, I couldn't go down to her office, and I told her why I needed the call, so I have to pay for it. Okay, that's fine. I did that. When I told her, she said, "You need to be tested." I said, "I know." And so now she's found a private laboratory that even though they have criteria, she thinks that they will test me. And I said, I will pay for the test, okay? And she tells me the test is expensive. And I said, oh, well, no doubt. However, this is my health and it's affecting my life. And I need to, I've got people that rely on me for work. I've got about 80 people on my team, so I need to have that test. So hopefully tomorrow I will call them, and hopefully she has lined it up. She has sent all the paperwork to them, and so hopefully I can get a test. So I will come back to you and let you know what the results of the test are for sure. But please, if you have any flu-like symptoms, self-isolate now. Everybody needs to get prepared now. Preparation is not the same as panicking, okay? I'm not talking about mindless stupidity, going into the shops and fighting over toilet paper, as some Australians do. I just can't even get my head around that. In order to have toilet paper, you have to, to use toilet paper, to need toilet paper, you have to eat. So food is actually more important than toilet paper. So you need, to stock up from basic items because there's going to be shortages, and already they're starting, those shortages. My husband was in the supermarket the other day in Aldi to buy the dog food because they eat 2-star beef mince, my dogs. They're big dogs, and he was called out at the checkout because he had 10 packets. They eat a packet a day. I've got two big dogs. They eat a packet a day. He had 10 packets and they took 4 packets off him. So he could only buy 6 packets. Well, that's only a few days worth. So that's not panic buying. I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting that everybody get a strategy, sit down and work out a plan, what you need. Think about things like your power, your phone, banking, any industry could go down, because once staff start falling sick, they'll be falling sick in droves. This illness is going to peak in Australia between May and August of this year. So we haven't got a lot of time, and already it is getting chaotic down in the shops. Okay, so I'll answer your questions, and I hope to do another video. I'm sorry if I'm a bit rambly today, but that's just how it goes. Yeah, I feel better than I did yesterday. One point, you can take oil, oregano oil. I felt a big difference putting that on my chest last night. This morning I woke up, I'm not coughing near as much as what I was yesterday. So oil of oregano, you want essential oils, not fragrances, because they don't have the therapeutic qualities. You want the most high quality. Oregano, basil, cypress, wintergreen, spearmint. So I made a sort of combo of things, and I just feel so much better today. I'm actually quite amazed. Okay. All right. Thanks so much for listening to me. I'm sorry it's not better news, but yeah, as soon as I get my act together, I will come back to you with what you can do spiritually. Actually, let's just draw some cards now, so that we can have something to go out on, and we'll see what we come up with. See, I'm not very organised. Okay, let's see what comes up. So a message for all of my viewers, please. There you go, that one's come up, and it's mother. Okay, so let's see what comes out with the card that goes on top. Mother, what goes with this? A message for all of my viewers, please. Looking for one that really, that one. Okay, this is interesting. Okay, so this is a point. Sorry. If you have children, if they're under 10, they may still get the illness. It's unlikely, but they may. There's been no deaths that I can see for children under 10, so you don't need to freak out, okay? 80% of people will be fine. 20% of people are going to be seriously, seriously ill. If you are a mother, you need to make plans, because already in the States, 15 million children are, locked out of their schools at the moment. The schools are on lockdown for 15 million children. So this is coming to Australia soon. So think about, if you go to work or something and your kids are at school, what are you going to do if your kids can't go to school? Okay, so that's really, mothers really need to be proactive now about what they're going to do with their children. The thing about children, it's not them being sick, it's the fact that if they get the illness, they'll bring it home, and the rest of the family will get it. This illness is highly contagious, much more than the flu, and it's going to reach more people than the flu, and it kills 34 times more people than the flu. So don't listen to that rubbish about, it's only a flu. It's not only a flu, it's a very serious illness that will kill millions of people on this planet. In Australia, I worked it out, it could be, well, they're giving us dodgy figures. New South Wales Premier come out and said it's going to kill 8,000 people. She came out 2 or 3 days ago. That's nowhere near correct. I worked out it's probably going to kill about 30,000 to 100,000. So, sorry, I got that wrong. She said 8,000, I got around 30,000, but across the whole of Australia, it could be between 1 and 200,000, okay? The other point about this, the spiritual aspect of this, is how important nurturing is, self-nurturing and taking care of others. But you need to take care of others in a way that you don't put yourself at risk. So if you're in an aircraft and there's an incident, in the plane, and there's a danger of crashing, the oxygen mask will come down. And in the old days, they used to be called air hostesses. I think they're called flight attendants now. Flight attendants say, put on your own mask and then attend to others after you put your mask on, your oxygen mask on. It's the same thing here. attend to yourself, get yourself right, and then attend to others. Of course, if you're a mother, you've got children, so you often put your children first. But if you're sick, you need to think about, if you're sick, what's going to happen. You spread it to your children, they go to school, they spread it to somebody else, and then they take it home, and there's an elderly relative there who can't fight the illness off. So the fact this card's come out, it's about nurturing. And so what I'm suggesting is, if you know people, say mothers with kids or elderly people, can you help them out without risking your own health? So one way would be for an elderly person, ring them on the phone and say, what are you doing for groceries? Shall I put an online order in for you? Okay, and if you know the person very well, they might give you their credit card details, for example. But these people, the elderly and the infirm or the disabled people, or somebody who's unwell, they need extra help now. So if you can somehow help them out, that would be fabulous. Okay, really try and nurture other people where you can. Alrighty. Okay, thanks for listening to me. Getting a bit breathless now after all that. So I'll go, but thanks again, and I'll make a video in the near future to give you the update on my test results. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye for now. Thanks so much for watching. Please visit my website, absolutesoulsecrets.com, for all things spiritual. Have a lovely day.